I don't think there's a film studio that has gained more popularity amongst cinephiles in recent years than A24. Founded in 2012 and rapidly gaining a fan following throughout the 2010s, the studio has notably produced some of the most acclaimed films of really any genre, and all for lower budgets, with what seems to be a greater emphasis on the individual creativity and voice of the filmmaker than what we're used to seeing in the mainstream. There is a relationship that's been formed between the audience and that logo. Not every single film from this studio is perfect by any means, but we know that when A24 announces a film, it's going to be one that has a distinct feel that sets it apart from the big studio endeavors that take up nearly every screen year-round. With Everything Everywhere All at Once nearly sweeping the Oscars last year, nabbing Best Picture along with several other awards, it's humbling to know that there's a studio out there that's funding these weird personal projects that would normally never have gotten this opportunity from any of the other major players. Looking through their filmography, you'll find anything from dramas to documentaries, but it's easy to see that A24 got their first major boost in horror. Hereditary was the highest grossing film that the studio had until Everything Everywhere, and helped them build their reputation as one of the best producers in the genre working today. When an A24 horror film is announced, everybody pays attention. The latest A24 horror film to hit theaters is Talk to Me. Talk to Me is the directorial debut of Danny and Michael Filippo, who actually got their start right here on YouTube. I was actually unfamiliar with their channel before hearing about this film, but after watching this video about the making of Talk to Me, I can see that there's a clear passion and excitement that they have for filmmaking that definitely comes through in Talk to Me. I had actually first heard buzz around this movie from other creators, and people who were lucky enough to attend film festivals where it first premiered, and after the first trailer dropped, I took their advice and stayed away from all the marketing after that until the release. The trailer is very good at not revealing too much beyond just the premise, and since this will be a spoiler-free video, I will only be revealing things that are shown in that trailer. However, I do recommend that you go into this film totally blind if you can. It is totally worth it. The concept of Talk to Me is one of the most unique that I've seen in a horror film in a while. It revolves around a group of teens who are in possession of an embalmed hand that acts as a sort of doorway to connect to the other side, if you partake in a sort of ritual with it. This is particularly enticing to our main character, Mia, who is still heavily grieving the loss of her mother. That's about where I'll stop in terms of revealing anything else about the story, as the rest is worth experiencing firsthand. The horror of Talk to Me comes from how uneasy it makes you feel. There's a lingering sense of dread throughout the entire thing. Once things get going, it's hard to shake the feeling that anything could happen at any second. The supernatural elements of the story are unpredictable. There's a sense that these teens are in way over their head, and that feeling can make the outcome of these events feel very bleak. This is a horror film that wants to make you uncomfortable. Its horror is also based around emotion. There's an understanding as to why our main character does the things she does, but at the same time, the film feels like you're listening to a dark urban legend, like the ignorance of the vulnerable characters is being exploited by forces they can't understand. Emotionally, this story wouldn't work if the characters weren't likable, so the film presents us with a very well performed and engaging cast, the standout performance being the lead character Mia, played by Sophie Wilde. She is excellent as the lead, playing the young woman trying to find peace after the loss of her mother with a reserved pain in some scenes and full-blown outward emotion in others, when those emotions can no longer be held back. There are multiple themes to be explored in Talk to Me, some that I can't wait to dive into more upon repeat viewings. Obviously, grief plays a major part in the telling of this story, but there's also an exploration of spectacle being made out of suffering similar to that of Jordan Peele's Nope, but on a smaller, more intimate scale. The characters are playing with forces they don't understand, ultimately for entertainment, with smartphone cameras recording everything. How this theme of one's desperate need to connect is used as cheap entertainment for another ties into the film's ending is one that left me with chills in the theater. Talk to Me presents a terrifying vision of the afterlife, one that had me thinking about it way too much as I went to bed. This is a strong directorial debut, with some very creative, fun camera work and visual callbacks to reinforce the themes of the story. There are some issues I have with the film, specifically in the third act regarding the rules that they set up for interacting with this other world. I actually love the ambiguity that the film approaches these supernatural elements with, letting our imaginations do most of the work, but I think that presents some issues in following some of the events that happen toward the end. With that said, I think the ending is still very effective and wraps up the story hauntingly well. Talk to Me is a visceral, even painful film when it gets going, with strong characters and emotions to back up its original concept. I'm very excited to see what these filmmakers do next. I highly encourage you to see Talk to Me in theaters and support these filmmakers as well as A24. If you needed another reason to back this movie, A24 is one of the studios that has been approved to continue producing films during the current writing and acting strike, as they are not affiliated with the AMPTP and accepted every single condition that the strikers laid out. Just another reason to love this studio. Go see Talk to Me, support the strike, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.